Another week of absolute domination for the Penn State wrestling program. Indiana Northwestern speed bumps on the way to the BJC duel coming up this weekend against Nebraska. It's going to be a good one in all ways that you can imagine. A lot of top duels, a lot of top 10 matchups, and of course Greg Pickel is going to give us the preview of that here on today's show. We're going to recap last week as well. So Greg, welcome. Hope you're ready to do the heavy lifting here on the show today. Always appreciate you being here, breaking it down for Penn State wrestling fans.
I'm just glad we're doing it live, buddy. News to me, news to you, I'm guessing as well, but let's do it. This is fun. We've never done a live wrestling show. Why not do another one?
Yeah.
The joys of back-end technology when it comes to this studio are bar none unbelievable. But no, this is good. Let's do it. Why not?
Yeah,
We're here.
okay. Why not? Why not? Yeah, as you may have just noticed, I didn't intend for this to be a live show. I hit one wrong button and I just got done with the Penn State recruiting show, and my brain went on autopilot. So Greg, thanks for noticing that. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Northwestern, Indiana. What did you see from this weekend that was notable? What did you see this weekend from what was the kind of the biggest takeaways from what was an absolute beatdown?
I think you said it at the open, but sheer domination. I think the most stunning thing to me, T. Frank, was that Penn State won 2 wrestling matches in less than 24 hours. And I realized that to some extent that's not maybe as amazing as it seems, because on tournament weekends, both at Big Tens and at NCAAs, they're wrestling obviously 48 hours in a row, Saturday and Sunday for Big Tens, and then 72 hours in a row at the national tournament. So it's not unheard of, but what is unheard of is to win a match that starts at 7 p.m. on Friday night in State College, and then bus to Maryland to wrestle Maryland at 5 p.m. on Saturday night, and not only win those matches by a combined score of 99-0, but do so in pretty dominating fashion. And that's obviously what we've come to expect from this Penn State team, T. Frank. But I just continue to be amazed. You know, when Cale Sanderson was talking last Friday night, you can find the video of that here on the YouTube channel, about him thinking that, the schedule changed because of the weather. They were supposed to wrestle at Maryland on Sunday. He said the schedule changed because of the weather was essentially a bit of adversity training. And so they dealt with the adversity very well and went and took care of business. So the highlight down there at Maryland, of course, was Shane Van Ness overcoming a 7-1 first period deficit against number 7 Carter Jones to win that match by technical fall. There's some disputing what the final score of that match was. I will take to my grave that it was 32-15, but they are officially scoring it at 31-15. Either way, he erased a 3-minute 6-point deficit very quickly in the second period, and then rolled to victory from there. So good weekend for Penn State yet again. They're not facing, as we'll talk about here in a little bit, they're not facing, I would say, what you would call the cream of the crop of the Big Ten, without question, outside of Iowa, who they dominated as well. So there are some people, I think, regionally, nationally, whatever it may be, fans questioning the Penn State start to this season, and I get it. But when you have that Iowa 32-3 romp in there, it certainly adds plenty of validity, and then you add Penn State's history in, and there's not really a whole lot more that needs to be said.
Yeah, so I guess you're on the stance that this team is as good as we've seen them be, and they're marching towards another dominating Big Ten dual regular season victory, and then everything we've come to expect from them. You think all of that is I'm having a hard time phrasing the question, because obviously it's legitimate, obviously it's real, but is you think the domination of this lineup is one of the best you've seen?
Yeah, it's trending that direction. Let me throw some stats at you, T. Frank. So Penn State is 11-0 through its first 11 matches, some of which were non-conference, some of which, of course, Big Ten. 5 of them are conference matches. Penn State is 5-0. So far this season in dual meets, these are all courtesy of Pat Dungay and Penn State Athletics. Penn State is 104-6 when it comes to dual meet bouts, 49-1 in the Big Ten. The only loss, of course, Braden Davis to Nasir Bailey at Iowa, coming back into the lineup at 141 once Aaron Nagao went out due to injury. Penn State has outscored its dual meet opponents 480-19. That includes a 228-3 mark in Big Ten action. And if you keep in mind, if Penn State did not have Aaron Nagao out of the lineup at some point and they were rolling through backups before going to Braden Davis for the long haul, these numbers might be even a little bit more outrageous. The average points per duel for Penn State in the Big Ten is 45.6. Average margin of victory 41.9 points, which is just ridiculous as well. And they have 7 shutouts, which we believe is I haven't gone back and went through every season, but I'm almost certain it has to be a record in the Cale Sanderson era. So it feels like every week we do one of these shows, T. Frank, we could make the little thumbnail thing, something about a new record or a new achievement. And that 7 seems to be a high water mark for Penn State in terms of dual meet shutouts in the Cale Sanderson era.
Yeah, and their ability to keep their focus on what they're doing from week to week has been incredibly impressive. So let's move on, unless there's anything else from this past weekend you want to get to, talk about and spend most of our time here on this very brief live show to discuss Nebraska coming up this weekend. Yeah,
let me just throw a couple other numbers at you quick. 356-27 is Penn State's advantage in takedowns through its first 11 dual meets. They have forced 90 stalling calls to 8 against, and they have a 23-2 edge in riding time points earned. So, the answer, I guess the best way to answer your question that you threw out not too terribly long ago about where this team is in kind of the Penn State history, Penn State lore, whatever you want to call it. I don't ever recall Penn State including all of this detailed information about its so far dual meet season. And yet here we are, and they have done so well so far that Penn State's compiling all that stuff, which thank God, because I can't keep track of it. So appreciate Pat Dungai, the gals over there doing that. But no, it's an impressive start. But now we get to transition into Nebraska week, the meat of the schedule. You have Nebraska, number 5, number 6, depending on where you look. You have Michigan then the following weekend, and you also have Ohio State, the number 2 team in the country, getting ready to come to Beaver Stadium. That'd be something, wouldn't it? Don't give Pat Kraft any ideas.
One day.
February 13th wrestling match outdoors. I would think I might decline that one, but we'll see. But then you have them coming to town February 13th, I believe it is. So the meat of the schedule's about here. If anyone has questions about this Penn State team with 6 top-ranked wrestlers, I'm not sure how you could, but if you do, they're about to have more opportunity to put how well they're wrestling on display starting this weekend.
All right, so do you want to just go through the lineup, or do you want to go by most interesting? How do you want to preview this one?
Yeah, let's just go. Well, so I was trying to do that for Friday morning's preview over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. I was trying to figure out how I wanted to put it together. I prefer at times to go with an ordering that's the most interesting matchups, but I had a hard time picking. I think there's a lot of intrigue around this. I don't expect this match to be close necessarily, but I do think that there are going to be some matches that are closer than fans might expect, and or ones where maybe Penn State can come out on top despite being the underdog. So the way I look at this, just to give you an overall setup, T-Frank, 10 matches, obviously, in every college wrestling duel. I have Penn State favored just by the rankings themselves in 8 of them. Could they steal one somewhere? We'll get into that as we discuss weight by weight breakdown. But, all told, this should be a comfortable win for Penn State. How big it is just depends on whether or not those bonus points they've racked up pretty consistently so far this year continue to happen.
Yeah, is that something you think is reasonable to expect this weekend of, going up against another quality team to get bonus points?
Yeah, I mean, not in the way they have, and certainly not in the way they did last weekend. I mean, I do see opportunities for bonus points here. We'll start. It's a good transition at 125 pounds. That's the only weight class where Nebraska will not be sending a ranked wrestler to the mat. It'll either be, I want to make sure I get the pronunciations right, Alan Kohler or Cale Lardinson for Nebraska coming to the mat. They've kind of gone back and forth, flip-flop, trying to figure out something that could possibly get them points at nationals in that weight class. Hasn't worked out yet. So whoever they send out there against Luke Littledahl, who of course is number 1 now in the country at number 125 pounds, it figures to be a major at best for Nebraska. And in a worst case, they would have their wrestler pinned. So I went with a major decision here for Luke Littledahl. I'm not in love with that pick. I think it probably ends up being a technical fall. But, there's ways guys can wrestle some Penn State wrestlers that prevent them from scoring enough points to get to a tech. So I would play it a little bit conservative here. It's bonus points at 125. Whether it's a major or more, we'll have to wait and see.
All right, what's next?
Yeah, moving on to 133. Freshman Marcus Blaze has been outstanding. He'll face number 10 Jacob Van D in this 133-pound matchup during the Penn State-Nebraska duel. Duke, I've got my names mixed up here. But, long story short, I got to fix that after we get off the air. Learning live. I think that, when you look at the common opponents and how Blaze has been wrestling and how Van D has been wrestling and sort of the scores of those matches, I don't see a way. There's always a way that you could lose, but I think Blaze goes into this match as a pretty heavy favorite, T. Frank. And, again, do I expect him to get bonus points here? No. But have you yourself have listened and watched as we went through Marcus Blaze's high school career and then his international career over the time it led up to him getting to the mat here. And I just don't think you ever want to count out Marcus Blaze to get bonus points in a match. But I'm going to say, stay on the side of the decision here. This is a 4-10 matchup with an experienced wrestler. Marcus Blaze, obviously experienced overall, freshman in the folk style college scene. So go with the decision there, but still growing Penn State's lead after 2 weight classes.
So 141, Braden Davis, how have you seen him adjust to not just 141, but also coming off a red shirt, kind of getting thrown in pretty quickly here? So now that we're into the meat of it and he's got, another top 10 matchup here, what do you think of Braden Davis at 141?
I would say good. I would say that he was very blunt Friday night, if you go watch the video here on the BWI YouTube channel, about the fact that, and it's obvious, but when he was planning the red shirt, he was not necessarily the world's greatest weight cutter. Why would you be? You don't need to wrestle 141 pounds if you're taking a red shirt year. So he's back in that groove now. He said he's not having any issue holding his weight. Looks like a pretty good sized 141 pounder, which is not a surprise. It looked like he was at times cutting a good bit to get to 133 last year. So the question for him is always going to be, can he get his offense going? And can he do enough to not turn a match that, I don't want to say he should dominate because that's not always the case, but should win at least, into a match where it becomes who gets the takedown, who gets the ride out, who gets the escape, whatever it may be, in overtime and in sudden victory and tiebreaker. So he's going to wrestle number 4, Brock Hardy. Davis comes into this match at number 12. They both wrestled Bailey to a 1-point result. Brock Hardy beat Bailey 3-2. 1-0, and Davis lost to Bailey 3-2. So you can kind of envision how close this match could end up being in this Penn State-Nebraska duel. I have Hardy winning by decision. This is one of the weight classes where it wouldn't shock me if Penn State pulls off an upset, but I just think that Hardy, if he can get his offense going, can just score in a few more ways, I think, than Davis can, and that'll lead to Nebraska getting on the board, preventing Penn State's eighth shutout of the season.
So before we get to 149 and we get to the hammer of the lineup, which I guess is most of the Penn State lineup at this point. Yeah. You can subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Like this video. If you're here live, there's a couple people here live. Normally this is a 4 o'clock video and, some technical things on the back end. I made it a live video. So if you have any questions, you want to throw anything in the chat, you want to push back on Greg's rankings, anything, we'll be taking your questions here as we go through the preview. But that's we appreciate everyone who's here and everyone who watches the video as well. Helping us out with the wrestling show means liking the video and subscribing to the channel as always. So let's get to Shane Van Ness, 149. What do you see here?
Going to face number 18 Chance Lammer, and he's had success in the past against excuse me, not Lammer, but guys that Lammer's wrestled against and lost to. So to me, this is a question of not whether Penn State will win at 149 pounds. It's a matter of by how much. Much like 125, I'm going to go with a major decision here for Shane Van Ness over Chance Lammer, but I could definitely see it being a technical fall. So when you're looking at that, overall dual score, you're going to go +4 here to Penn State, which would make it, if I can find my notes properly, 12-3 after 4 matches. But if this one would be, 16-3 or something, even more in Penn State's favor, it wouldn't shock me.
So Mitchell, I'm sorry, I almost skipped over PJ Duke here, 157. What's your preview here?
Yeah, so if we were going to start with the most interesting or marquee match of the night, whatever adjective you want to use, it would have been here. So you have PJ Duke number 5 in the country at 157 pounds, taking on Antrell Taylor, number 3. Oh, I'm sorry, Duke is number 3. Let me rephrase that. And Antrell Taylor is number 5. This will not be the first time these two have met. So Duke and Antrell Taylor met at the U.S. World Senior Team Trials back in the spring when Duke was still a high school senior. He used a 4-point move to win that match 9-6, and obviously went on to, as you've heard here on the channel, make the U.S. Senior World Team. So now they're going to meet on the folk style mat in the college level. And so when you look at that past history and what PJ Duke has done so far this year, in addition to Taylor being at times a little bit up and down during the season to date, I think you have to lean towards Duke just based on the history of this matchup. And would you lean towards Taylor if he had won at U.S. Senior World Team Trials? Yeah, I think probably. But I'm going to go by decision here. I know some people over on the Wrestling Room forum on BlueWhiteIllustrated.com think this one could be a bonus point possibility as well. And again, much like the conversation we had with Marcus Blaze, T. Frank, I don't think you ever want to be on the side counting out PJ Duke to get bonus points. It's just not in his wheelhouse to not at least try. So I'm going to go by decision here, which gives Penn State another win in this dual meet and would grow its lead to 15-3 at halftime. But should be a heck of a match, and I know one fans are looking forward to seeing.
Is this an area, and I know I'm Lambd is asking a question in the chat about the future, and I'm going to ask a question right now about the future. So if PJ Duke wins this against 5th-ranked wrestler, could Penn State have a number 1 wrestler from 149 all the way to 197 after this weekend?
Well, it's a fair question, and I think it's actually a good segue. I don't even know if you made it, if you knew you were making it, but it's a good one. So to the question in the chat, is there any chance Penn State loses to Ohio State? Well, I don't think so, no. But one of the matches that will come into play there, not just for the top spot at 157 pounds, but also whether or not that Ohio State Penn State duel a little bit later this year is close, is number 1 Brandon Cannon against number 3 PJ Duke. Those are the rankings as we sit here and talk on January 29th, of course. But you look at this match, it's worth pointing out that Taylor and Duke have both wrestled some guys who were pretty darn impressive this year, and they have also fed on some guys who are just not in their stratosphere. So, as it relates to that number 1 spot, if PJ Duke wins this, he'll hold serve at number 3, and you never know, depending on some results across the country, maybe move up, maybe not. But ultimately, that top spot at 157 for Big Tens and for Nationals will almost certainly be decided when Penn State and Ohio State meet and PJ Duke and Brandon Cannon meet later this year at the Bryce Jordan Center. And then to the question from the chat about whether Penn State could lose the Ohio State duel, I don't think so, no. But what the final score ultimately ends up being will obviously be impacted by how that 157-pound match goes.
All right, well, let's get then to Mitchell Messenbrink at 165. What's going on here?
Yeah, so Mitchell Messenbrink will take on number 7, LJ Arujo. Messenbrink is a bonus point machine at this point. He is someone who is in my mind, Hodge Trophy favorite at this point, the college wrestling Heisman Trophy. And so LJ Arujo wrestles a lot of close matches. He's had a pretty good season to date. He's not number 7 by mistake. But I don't envision a way he can keep pace with Mitchell Messenbrink for 7 minutes. And quite frankly, I would be a little bit surprised if this match even goes 7 minutes. So I have Messenbrink here by technical fall, which would jump Penn State's lead to 20-3 after 165. And, again, if he would pin him, not a surprise. If it was less than a tech, I think I'd be a little bit surprised by that too.
Yeah, he's had a really, really ascendant rise, not just this year, but just the course of his career. He's been building just a really impressive resume. So 174, Levi Haynes is next up. What do you see here?
Yeah, so Christopher Minto is number 4 at 174 pounds for Penn State. He's going to take on number 1 Levi Haynes, who has just been bonusing everyone to death so far this season. His final one at Penn State, I still am struggling to wrap my mind around the fact that Levi Haynes is a senior and just about done wrestling. It feels like yesterday he was just getting to Penn State, but here we are. It's a fantastic senior season for him so far this year. Minto beat Brody Ballman of Purdue by decision earlier this year, and Levi Haynes pinned him at Nationals last year. So, that kind of gives you, I think, an idea. Obviously, guys improve in the offseason. There's no question about it. But I think it gives you an idea of where these two are relative to each other. I have this one going down to Levi Haynes by decision. But, again, if there's bonus points involved here, not going to surprise me. Probably should have picked a major, but went with the decision call for Levi Haynes over Christopher Minto, and it's one of a couple top 5 matchups on this card.
So Penn State's rolling as usual in your predictions
23-3
here.
after 174. If I have if I get anything right, yes.
Yeah, so let's just get to Rocco Welsh and Josh Barr here, rounding out the run of number 1 wrestlers for Penn State. What do you see in these two weight classes?
We'll have one more after this with Josh Barr. But yeah, 184, Rocco Welsh and Silas Allred of Nebraska. I don't have in front of me. They both wrestled the same guy this year, and they both won 4-2. So decision victory for both of those guys, whoever their common opponent is, whose name is escaping me at the moment. Takeaway for me here, T. Frank, is these guys aren't typically point machines. Like they can both score, obviously, when they're wrestling lower ranked competition, I guess you would say. But when they wrestle guys sort of in their same stratosphere, usually it's low scoring. I'm not saying a takedown is going to decide this, but it very well could. So I have Welsh taking this one by decision. I think it'll be a very fun match to watch, a very obviously close match to watch. And if you're looking for one that Penn State could drop, maybe it's here just because of the low scoring style of both. And you just never know. You give up a takedown, can't get one of your own and end up losing 3-1 or something like that. So time will tell, but I have Welsh winning this at least by decision to give Penn State another 3 points going in the 197.
Okay, so Josh Barr, as you mentioned, last of the top-ranked wrestlers before we get to heavyweight and Cole Mirasola. So what do you see from Josh Barr here?
Yeah, so Josh Barr has just been on an absolute tear since coming back from that rib injury he suffered during the U23 World Championships in October. I don't know. There's so many Penn State wrestlers to be impressed with, but this guy to come off, like we talked about last week on this show, for him to come off a rib injury, in October, and then be back to just bonusing people endlessly in December and January is just absurd, quite frankly. So he's going to take on number 9 Camden McDaniel. McDaniel's 14-4. Barr's 12-0. Barr beat him by technical fall twice already at the college level. So who am I to say he's not going to do it again? Obviously, you could see a fall here potentially, but I'd be surprised if it's not a tech fall at worst. So that gives Penn State another 5 points with Barr teching McDaniel, which would make it 31-3 if my math is right, which I'm not a mathematician, guys, so you always have to check my work, but 31-3 heading into heavyweight.
Well, I believe you. I'm less of a mathematician than you. Cole Mirasola has been one of the most interesting wrestlers this year because of, I'm preaching the choir here of his size at heavyweight, but also being a young guy. And how do you see this one playing out? What's the matchup like? And do you think he's going to win?
So if you've ever been to a match at Rec Hall or the Bryce Jordan Center, typically by heavyweight, Penn State is pretty far ahead, and a lot of people start to head towards the exits because they want to beat traffic, they want to beat the bathroom line, whatever it might be. They want to get back downtown, the anti-fragile, whatever they are doing. They usually try and get out of there pretty quickly. And I don't think, no matter what the score is, anyone will be leaving early from the stands before heavyweight because A.J. Ferrari is coming to town, the big villain, former national champ, but has been at multiple schools over the course of his college career. Now, of course, the heavyweight at Nebraska. I'm going to just take a guess that a lot of Penn State fans might want to stick around and root really hard for Cole Mirasola, or at the very least, let their feelings known about A.J. Ferrari when he comes out of the tunnel. So A.J. Ferrari is number 4 in Intermat's latest heavyweight rankings. Cole Mirasola at number 12. Ferrari lost to Nick Feldman, the top Ohio State heavyweight last weekend. Is there a path for Mirasola to win this? Sure, because Ferrari does not always do a lot of shooting and scoring. So if Mirasola comes out aggressive, he might be able to try and steal one here. I just think the size difference and the experience difference is going to lead to a Ferrari decision. And that may be a best case scenario for Penn State. We'll just have to wait and see. I could be underselling Mirasola. Time will tell. I'm sure people will remind me if that is the case. But that would make it 31-6 Penn State, the final score there. And obviously, like I said, T. Frank, there's a very good chance that, Penn State could end up with more bonus point wins than expected in the, in this duel. I just look at some of these matches and you think to yourself, while Penn State is always wrestling to score, wrestling to win by more than just a decision, sometimes other wrestlers have a way to slow the match down enough to take that out of their hands to some extent. So we will see, but 31-6 is what I have it for Penn State over Nebraska on Friday night. That is at 8 p.m. on Big Ten Network. So if you're not going to be at the Bryce Jordan Center, you can certainly follow along with us in the Wrestling Room forum over at bluewhiteillustrated.com as we get ready for a single duel weekend, not a double duel weekend, a single duel weekend. Matt Campbell will be at the Penn State wrestling match at the BJC on Friday night. The new football coach will then be at the ceremonial puck drop at the hockey game on Saturday. So we're going to have all that covered at bluewhiteillustrated.com, T. Frank. This was fun. The first live BWI wrestling show. It was good.
Yeah, I liked it. And with that in mind, it is very important for you guys because what I have done here is normally like this is a video and that means nothing to you. But what it means to the YouTube algorithm is it's going to be very confused. So please like the video. I know that I always ask you that, and I know that I've been asking for a lot of these videos for you to do that. But for this one, like really in particular, these have been gaining steam. Like we've been doing these for a while and we have a following. I don't want anyone to get confused. So if you could, please like the video. That'll spread it to more people, and my oopsie will it won't be as bad of a deal. Anyway, thank you, Brad here. He was just here for the live show for the football show. He's liked the video. You got an extra 30 minutes here of Penn State sports talk on a Thursday morning. Greg, thank you for your time, and we'll be back next week to recap this particular duel, see how Greg did in his predictions, and preview what's coming up as Penn State hits this big stretch of duel meets where we're going to learn more about this team and the upper limits of what they could be. I think everyone's very excited about that. We'll be back next week. I'm Thomas Frank Carr, Greg Pickel, here on the Penn State Wrestling Show.